Welcome to the Sim Madden League Top 10. Your podcast for the best of the best around the SML. Now, here's your host, I Got the Meats.
Welcome everybody to the first episode of the Sim Madden League Top 10. This is going to be a more relaxed podcast where me and a special guest will hop on and talk about the theme for the week. So today's theme is the top 10 teams of Madden 21 so far, and I'm joined by my special guest, Mad Bomber. What's going on, Bomber?
Oh, not much. Excited to be here on the first episode. Ready to get into this list.
Yeah, so my idea for this show is, I don't know how often, maybe once every 2 weeks or so, I'll have somebody come on, and we'll maybe look at the top 10 running backs, or the top 10 quarterbacks, or the top 10 defenses, or whatever. I thought today we'd just start with the top 10 teams so far here in week 3. Hey there, Meats from the Future here. I just wanted to throw this out there that this video was filmed on Friday while we were still in week 3. So we may be in week 4 or 5 by the time we release this. So please take everything you're about to see with a grain of salt. I guess we'll just go ahead and get into it then. Our number 10 team for Madden 21 so far is the Jacksonville Jaguars, Mad Bomber himself.
All right, what a coincidence. I don't know if I agree with me being 10 on this list. Probably should be much lower after my last game, but we definitely feel pretty confident. We had 2 good games against Coop and Prime, and then matched up against Paulie, and that kind of was he was able to shut down pretty much everything we did, and he moved the ball at will. So I don't know about the Jaguars being at 10, but I'm happy to be there and hopefully move up the list.
Yeah, you were one of those guys. So we each compiled a list of our top 10 that we compared, and whoever made it. So this was the Jaguars was one of those teams that I had on my list, but Bomber didn't have on his list, and I had them at 9 or 10. So it was pretty close to not being in that top 10. But I gotta say, anytime you beat the Colts, you're gonna be riding that power until you prove otherwise. And yeah, you took a nasty loss to the Dolphins, but win over the Titans, win over the Colts, I think is enough to make you top 10 right now.
I mean, we're still in the 11th ranked run defense, which has kind of been our strong spot so far is our run defense. And our opponents are actually 4 and 5, so we don't have the easiest schedule. Just looking at the rest of this list, a lot of guys have had some easier schedules. Like you said, beating Prime, that was kind of the feather in our cap, so we're going to kind of ride that as long as we can.
Yeah, and I mean, looking at the stats, yeah, there's not a lot of talent on this Jags team. You got some good pieces here and there, but I think it only goes up from here. So I'd be on the lookout. I don't know if this is a playoff team season 1, but who knows with that extra wild card team. All right, moving on to. Oh, sorry, you wanted to say something else?
Oh, I was just going to say, depending on how the rest of the AFC South shakes out, will determine if we're a playoff team. I don't know about getting a wild card. We're going to pretty much have to win our division, I think.
Yeah, there's some other good teams, at least one more on this list. I'll let the viewers be surprised here in that AFC South that, I don't know. Hey, with the AFC's tough, but with 3 wild cards this year, who knows? All right, moving on. Number 9 on our list is going to be the Houston Texans. There's your AFC South team. Stay tuned to see if we have one more on there or not. You there, Bomber?
So the Texans, I actually had them a little higher on my list. They come in at 9. They're 2-0 right now. They play, I think, tonight against KJ. So they don't have their 3rd game in as of this recording, but they have a top 10 defense. They're 7th in points, 2nd in yards, 3rd in passing yards. The worst ranking is 13th in rushing yards, so you can run on them a little bit, but for the most part, that defense is really strong. The only thing holding them back is they don't really have a very good offense. 32nd in yards, 32nd in passing yards, 30th in rushing yards. But some of that could be attributed to playing one less game too. But they have a 2-4 opponent record, and from everything that I've heard, this Koopa's really good. So 9 might be even a little bit low on this list.
Yeah, I mean, this is for sure a defense-first team. I mean, he's almost dead last in every offensive category, but he's top 5 in almost every defensive category. And he has only played 2 games, so it's not a whole lot to go off of. But you could argue that he's beaten the 2 most talented teams, maybe not 2 best owners, but 2 most talented teams in the league so far, in the Chiefs and the Ravens, both by 1 score. So that, regardless of who the owner is, that's an impressive start, especially this early in the cycle, to beat 2 talented teams like that. I actually had October at 10, and you had him at 7. So we pretty much agreed on the area that he was at.
Yeah, I think a lot of it, too, is just he's so new, at least for me. I don't know where to really rank him. And later on in the list, you'll see where we have the Vikings, too. I kind of had him lower probably than you did as well, for the same reason. I don't have enough familiarity with these guys to just put him at the top of the list.
Yeah, for sure. And October's been out of the SML for, I don't know, a year at least. I don't know if he played in Madden 20. And he was never, a true Super Bowl contender, but he was always very, very good. And I don't think it would shock anybody to see him make a run. I think the AFC, despite how heavy it is pretty wide open.
Definitely.
All right, moving on to number 8. The number 8 team on our list right now is, that almost said San Diego, the LA Chargers.
So the Chargers would have been a lot higher on my list for their last game. I really thought that they were going to be really good this year, and then watching them play Royce changed my whole outlook on this team, because he just destroyed them with Christian McCaffrey. They still have a top half defense and a top half of the league offense. It's just watching McCaffrey definitely exposed their weakness.
Yeah, this is had they beaten the Panthers, I think they're number 1 on my list. They had a massive 30-3 win over the Bengals week 1 and a 38-20 win over the Chiefs week 2. Before tripping up against the undefeated Panthers. So, very high upside. I guess you can say there's a pretty low floor on this team now, too, based on the breaks that got beaten off of them. We both agreed that they were in the right area, 6 or 7-ish, and that translated to 8th on the overall list. But, yeah, I think it's a little bit of early cycle panic. I don't think there's anything to worry about, really.
I think a lot of this, too, is, guys played some scrimmages, but you don't know how much your opponent was taking it serious, how much you were taking it serious, and I think this list will probably change a bit as guys kind of get in their groove and figure out how they want to run their teams.
Yeah, and to go back to, it's week 3 of the cycle. We had 4 teams that have an owner with an under 300 win percentage lifetime that won week 1. So I don't think there's a lot that you can overreact to right now. And it's a bad loss, but it's just 1 game. I think the Chargers will be fine.
Yeah, he should be all right, and I expect to see him much higher on this list next time you do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, watch out for the Chargers. I think they might be my AFC favorite this year. All right, moving on. Number 7 on our list is the Arizona Cardinals, myself. I'll let you take this one away. I don't really have much to say about myself.
All right, so the Cardinals coming in at 7. I had them at 8. Assume you had them at 6. Thought after that game against Dump, up 3, easy. The last 2 weeks, though, it looked like you had a little bit of trouble with the Redskins. And then a couple extra points away from losing to the Lions kind of had me worried, especially the way that the Lions were able to move the ball on the defense. Didn't see that in the game against Dump. It looked like the Lions found a way to move the ball. And I think that could be the downfall of the Cardinals. They may be a year away. But looking at the rest of our list, the Cardinals could very easily also end up at the top of the list. It's kind of wide open. Like you said, it's week 3, so anything is kind of a rush to judgment right now. But trying to put the list together, I think 7's a good spot for him.
Yeah, I was feeling pretty good after that win over the 49ers week 1. But the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, yeah, I kind of didn't win that game. I kind of just didn't lose it. Don't made a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
And it ended up, I think I was up 38-14 and then won 38-21. So it was a lot closer than the score. And had Dump not made as many mistakes, very easily could have won that game. And then, you're looking at the Lions and the football team. And both those guys just were like carving up my defense in a way that week 1 didn't happen. So that kind of brought me back down to earth here where I'm like, yeah, okay, maybe this team is going to take some work. Maybe I need to work on my defense a little bit.
And after this week 3, when the Giants ended up beating the 49ers, I'm even looking at that 49er win and wondering now maybe that wasn't as impressive as I thought originally, because now it looks like he's having a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, Dump's a great player, but he's always good for 2 to 3 silly losses every year. I'd have to say he's got 2 of them out of his system already this year between the Giants and myself. Not that losing to me is like a silly loss in itself, but just the way that he played that game. And then Rowan's a good player too, but I doubt he makes the playoffs this year, so we'll see. I do expect the 49ers to turn it around from that 1-2 start, but again, I mean, it's week 3, so...
Definitely too early to be too concerned.
All right, well, we got sidetracked talking about the 49ers, but let's move on to number 6 here, Philadelphia Eagles. Now, okay, I want to put this out there. As we are recording this, I didn't catch the final score, but Chris just played a game against the Bengals, and I'm pretty sure he lost. So we'll do our best to talk about the Eagles, but... Oh, Jesus. Okay, I just saw the final score. All right, Bengals won 30-0.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So had we made this show an hour or 2 later, Eagles probably wouldn't be on this list. But as for now, they're number 6. So coming into it, they were, let's see here. Yeah, this is their first loss of the season. They beat the Rams, and they beat the brakes off the football team. So it's a very high ceiling, very low floor team. You never know what you're going to get out of these Eagles.
Yeah, so I had him at 5 on my list. He won the preseason tournament. Didn't really have a close game up till now. Second in points, second in defense, first in all the defensive category. I mean, on paper, it looked really good. When you kind of dive into it, football team 0-3. Rams 0-3. He matches up today against the Bengals 0-2. They get him. So he hadn't even faced a team that had a win yet. So maybe 5 was a little high to put him on the list. But looking at the statistics and the numbers he was putting up, he looked like he deserved to be on the list. Now I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I mean, I had him at number 5 too, and that was mostly because his closest win was 18 points. But like I said earlier, you can kind of just throw out week 1. It was everybody's first game on sim mode, probably, with the team that they're going to play with all cycle. And it's just like, there were so many weird scores week 1 that I think you just throw out the whole week. And I think going forward, around week 4 or 5, I think Prime said it on Total Access, you are going to see a lot of guys get back into that groove. You're going to see guys fall into where they really belong. And maybe this Bengals game is the first of that we're seeing for the Eagles, or it could just be another early cycle fluke. I don't know, but that remains to be seen. But coming into this Bengals game, this was a fantastic defense, leading in everything except for points. And it was a pretty lackluster offense, and I think that showed against the Bengals. So,
definitely, like you said, it's not something to just blow out of proportion, but it kind of makes you think about maybe they were a little overrated going into this.
Yeah, I think so too. Like you said, Chris did win the preseason tournament, so that's nothing to, stuck your nose at. But it's preseason for a reason. It's first 2 weeks of the cycle for a reason. So we'll see. I think the Eagles, based on their start and based on who they beat and looking at their schedule, they should be okay. They should. I expect them to sneak in there with the wild card spot. So we'll see how that turns out for the rest of the season. Moving on to number 5 on our list, we're getting to the top teams here, the Miami Dolphins. All right, so this was definitely an interesting take here. You had them a lot higher than I did. And say what you want about Paulie, but he's put together a 3-0 record to start the year.
Yeah, I had him at 2. Maybe there's a little bit of recency bias there since I just played him last night. But outside of just having played him, if you just look at how he's played the Patriots week 1, gave up 3 points. The Bills week 2 with Noel gave up 14 points. I played him in week 3. He gave up 14 points. He doesn't give up points. He's number 1 in the league in points at giving up 10 a game. Offense, it's not flashy, but it doesn't make mistakes. He runs the ball consistently, 4 yards, 5 yards, 5 yards, 4 yards. He just barrels his way down the field, and then he'll mix in a couple of passes. 2 of the other game was I think 15 of 16. Missed 1 pass, and I think he was thrown out of a sack and just kind of dropped it right at his feet. He's just very efficient, does what he wants to do, and he knows what you're going to do, and he just executes his game plan. I definitely have him higher on the list. Yeah,
you had him at 2, which I think is pretty overrated, and I had him at 8, which I think, in my opinion, I think that's about right. And he came out to be number 5, which I still think is maybe a little bit overrated this early in the cycle. And you brought up records earlier. He beat the Patriots, who are 1-2. He beat the Bills, who are 1-2. Noel is a playoff contender every year, so that it's a good win, but still 1-2. And he beat one of the least talented teams in the league, in the Jaguars. So, I don't know. You gotta think about here the record and take that into account for sure. He's getting some good wins. He's winning by 10 plus a game, and he's only allowing 10 points, sure. But I think we're really not going to see what Paulie has until week 5 when he plays the 49ers, if they can turn it around. And the week 6 he plays the Broncos, who are currently undefeated. So weeks 5 and 6 we'll see what we get from the Dolphins.
He's definitely got a tough schedule coming up. But just for some perspective too on these records, not a single team in this top 10 has played against opponents with a winning record. As far as the overall, the best record is actually 4-5. Paulie's schedule. That's the most difficult. Paulie, myself, and the Panthers have played opponents with a total of 4-5 record. Everyone else is worse than that. So it's kind of difficult just to go off the schedules.
Interesting. I didn't think about that. That's pretty interesting. But I guess it is so early in the season that it's like, one loss is going to make you almost have a losing record. Yeah. So. Looking at the Dolphins' schedule moving forward, they've got the 2-1 Seahawks next week, which who knows what side of Tiny you're going to get. So it could be the really good kind or the really bad kind. We'll see. Then he's got Dump in the 49ers, Dan in the Broncos, QB Stud in the Chargers, Cobra in the Rams, who 0-3 currently, but has, put up some good numbers against some good teams in the past. So we'll see about that one. Then he plays me at the 3-0 Cardinals, and then he travels to Latin and the Jets, who, had a really good week 1, kind of fell off after that. But that's a really tough stretch for the Dolphins. So we're really going to see if they're for real or if they're just defraud, if you want.
I think he's got all the way to week 9 where he's going to have a little bit of trouble. Rams game, maybe not. That's the 0-3 Rams, and personally, I'm hoping to go 0-16. I got their first round pick, but once he gets to week 10, though, it's fairly smooth until got a couple little hiccups in there. But like you said, up to week 9 is really going to let us know what this Dolphins team is.
Yeah, I think if he can get to week 16 against the Raiders, then week 17 against the Bills, I think if he can get there hovering slightly above 500, I think he'll be okay. That's
absolutely.
It's going to be really interesting to see that 7th wild card, how that comes into play in some of these conferences. Because in years past in the SML, very reliably, it's taken 10 wins to make the playoffs. I don't know. Maybe we're going to see a lot more 9-win teams make the playoffs this year. Maybe even some 8-8 wild cards. Who knows? I know a couple seasons last year, 8-8 would have made a wild card, a 7th wild card spot. So we'll see. All right, moving on to number 4. We have the Minnesota Vikings. This is a polarizing topic. I know you hit on him a little bit earlier about Faz being a new guy, not really sure what you're getting, but you can't knock it. He's 3-0. He's got a win over the Colts, who, it looks like a blowout, but it was a disconnect and then a sim. So he did win that game, and then they, force win Vikings, whatever. That's how it works. Thanks, EA. And then he's got an impressive win over the Titans, despite the Titans being 0-3. And he started the week 1 with a massive win over a very talented Packers team. So throw out week 1, and he's still got 2 blowouts, really.
I don't know if the game against Prime was as much of a blowout, like you said, with the sim finish or whatever.
Oh yeah,
you can't really tell.
I misspoke. I was looking at the numbers.
Yeah, and then I don't know, the games that have to be restarted like that, where you're playing in bits and pieces, I don't really like going off of those anyway, because I feel like you lose all momentum or can easily switch sides. It just doesn't feel like as complete of a game when you do it that way. But my big issue with Faz is just new. He's played 3 games, and to rank him too high, he's been efficient. He's first in points, top 10 in all offensive stats, and then third in defensive points. So I mean, he's been good, but I just want to see a little more before I push him to the top of the list.
I feel like we've seen a pretty good sample size. Yeah, it's only been 3 games, but he played a guy that typically finishes around 500 in Mike, a guy that's a 16-time champion in Prime, and a guy that, might struggle to win 5 games this year in Coop. So he's looked impressive so far. I think I may have had him. Yeah, I had him at 2. You had him at 6. So a little bit of a disagreement there, but I think 4 is a pretty reasonable compromise.
Yeah, because I think the next 3 definitely deserve to be listed up above him, at least for now.
All right, moving on to number 3. We got the Dallas Cowboys. Let's see. I put them at 3. You put them at 4. So we pretty much agreed. The Cowboys are 3-0. They beat the brakes off the Rams. They smacked the crap out of the Falcons. And they have a nice 12-point win, handing the Seahawks their first loss to start the year. What have you seen so far out of the Cowboys?
So far, it looks like they like to run the ball, and they are good at it. He's number 2 in the league running the ball, and just plays really good defense. He's still sixth in points allowed, and then top half of the league in every defensive stat. The opponent record 3-6, but like we said, you got the 0-3 Rams in there. That's 3 losses right off the bat. So the schedule hasn't been overly easy, especially with Lawyer Killer in there in week 2, and he had no issues with it. So right now, he definitely looks like a top 3 or 4 team for me.
Yeah, honestly, I see him coasting pretty much until week 6 when he plays me. I hope I can give him a good game. And then after that, I don't know. Looking at this Cowboys roster, or schedule, sorry, they got a pretty easy schedule. This is a Cowboys team that could easily go 13-3, if not better.
I think he runs away with the NFC East. The only 2 real games I see giving him trouble. Actually, I think week 4 against Woods, I think, will be a difficult game for him. I just, for some reason, have trouble playing Woods every time. So I think Woods is going to give him trouble. And then really week 11, we'll really see this 3-4 matchup between Cowboys and Vikings. that could give us a good idea of where each of them are.
Yeah, I was in the Browns division last year, Woods. I took the Browns again this year. And I like to compare him to Lawyer. They're both very high ceiling teams. They're both owners that can make a run for a Super Bowl no matter where they are. However, Grams and the Cowboys just beat down the Falcons. 31-17. Maybe the final score is closer than that game. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't think the Browns are going to be able to beat them week 4. Definitely week 11 is a great one with the Vikings, as you said. And then week 15, I'm looking at the 49ers. I fully expect Dump to have it completely turned around by then and be firing on full cylinders. He's got 2 games versus the Eagles, so we'll see. The Eagles also on our list. Other than that, yeah, there's not a whole lot of many teams that make our list that is on his schedule, so we'll see. All right, moving on to number 2. We got the Denver Broncos. I'll let you take this one, Bomber.
All right, so I had him at number 3, and great offense. Right. Number 4 in yards, number 3 in points, top passer in the league, doing it with Drew Lock. Really good offense, and then top half of the league defense. He does give up a lot of points, but passing offense and just what he did with the Eagles last year. I hate to kind of reach back to the previous season to make a determination here, but I mean, he was one of the most consistent guys since I've been in the league, and he's just right out of the gates already 3-0 with the Broncos and looking every bit as good as he was with the Eagles. So I have him number 3. We have him 2 on this list.
So I want to echo Field from his podcast the other day, and he said it's a "What have you done now for me" league. Too often, these podcasts, these power rankings, other people in the league, they like to look back at years past to judge how a team's going to do. You know what? I kind of agree with Field. It's a "What have you done for me lately" kind of league. And 2 prime examples of that are Lawyer Killer, who has made a couple Super Bowls and won one before. Last cycle with the Packers, struggled all year. I think he made a run there at the end, but it was pretty inconsistent. Then you look at a guy like PJ and the Lions last year, who I think is the Patriots this year. Yeah. He's been very, very good. Madden 18, Madden 19. I've played with him in a bunch of other leagues. Madden 20 was his first cycle with the SML, and he struggled all year. He had one of the worst winning percentages in the league over the course of the entire cycle. So it's, yeah, like Field said, it's "What have you done for me now?" And the Broncos and Dan, yes, had a lot of success last cycle with the Eagles, but he's still doing it here with the Broncos, and he's really taken the league by storm. Now, let's not forget that AFC West division is by far the toughest in the league based on owners and talent of the teams. But, you know, he's proved he can beat talented teams. He beat Field and the Bucks by 7. He beat the Steelers by, 28? And he beat the Titans by 10. So it's an interesting Broncos team for sure.
I mean, he doesn't really have a difficult schedule outside of the AFC West. He's got Paulie in week 6, which I think will be a good game. But outside of the AFC West, and I take that back, he's got the Panthers week 14. So he does have 2 big games. But, I mean, the way he's been playing, I don't think he's going to have a problem winning that AFC West.
Yeah, season 1, based on what I saw out of the Chargers against the Panthers, I'm going to give this division to the Broncos. All right. I think
it's by a game or 2.
Yeah, it's going to be a close race for sure. I don't think either team is going to really run away with this division, and probably won't for the entire cycle. All right, we are ready to get down to our number 1 team. It's probably not a secret at this point, but I can't remember, so let's show it. The Carolina Panthers at number 1. We've been hyping them up kind of subtly all podcast. They just beat the crap out of the Chargers, who, were probably the week 1, week 2 favorites. What have you seen so far?
Christian McCaffrey, same thing everybody else has seen. It's coming. He makes no smoke screen. This isn't like Paulie, I'm going to the AFC South, and then doesn't. Royce will tell you right up front, I'm going to give the ball to Christian McCaffrey 100 times a game. And then he gives it to him 100 times a game. He still does whatever he wants. That offense right now, until somebody stops it, I just don't see any way he's not number one right now. His defense plays well enough to keep him in the games. I mean, he's still giving up. He gave up 42 to the future, 26 to field, and then 14 to QB. So he's even getting better on defense, which is scary with that offense that's putting up no less than 35 a game.
Yeah, it's a crazy team, and of course it's led by Christian McCaffrey. But even when you take away Christian McCaffrey, this Panthers team is still throwing for over 200 yards a game. So it's not like it's an entirely one-dimensional team. Against the Chargers, Christian McCaffrey had 23 carries for 272 rushing yards, which I don't remember off the top of my head what the NFL record is. I think it's like 290. Teddy Bridgewater kind of struggled, but they didn't really need him to do anything. And yeah, McCaffrey accounted for, what is that? That's almost 300 scrimmage yards in a game where they maybe had 400 scrimmage yards. So it's a crazy offense that you can just rely on that one person and still do so well. But like I said, even when you take him away, Royce has been a great passer in the past and is still passing for over 200 a game.
But those 624 yards that Bridgewater has, a quarter of that is going to McCaffrey too, as well as almost over a third of his completions are to McCaffrey. So getting rid of McCaffrey, Bridgewater's going to have to rely on more of his targets. But like I said in the beginning, he tells you there's no like I don't even know what the word I'm looking for is here. You know it's coming. He's not giving any misdirection about what he's going to do. He's going to tell you exactly what he's doing, and he's doing it. It's just how dominant McCaffrey is in at least this version of Madden 21 and with Royce using him.
So I just did the math while you were speaking there. Christian McCaffrey to this point in the season, again, it's only been 3 games, so this may be a bit of an overreaction, but Christian McCaffrey has accounted for 60% of the yards gained by the Panthers. That includes rushing and receiving yards, and he's got 8 total touchdowns on a team that averages 40 points a game. So he's averaging like, he's got 800 total yards, scrimmage yards already in 3 games, and 2 touchdowns a game. So those are insane numbers. His
percent of touches is even higher. He's got 57 carries, and there's 11 other carries left out there for the rest of the team. I mean, he's and then 8 of those are Bridgewater. He's definitely shouldering the load.
Yeah, there's no way that McCaffrey can keep this up and stay healthy. And there's no way that SML defenses won't adjust to it. I don't know why they haven't already. And McCaffrey is a 99 overall, so he's, even when you know what to stop, that doesn't necessarily mean that you can stop him. But, geez, the Panthers, man, there's nothing not to like. I mean, you could say you have some questions about their defense, but when you average 40 points a game on offense, that's more possessions on average. You're going to give up more points on defense. So I'm not really worried about giving up 27 points a game right now. I'm not really worried about 300 yards a game right now or giving up 250 passing yards a game right now. I'm not worried about any of that because more points equals more possessions for both teams, and that's just how it works out.
And as long as you're scoring 40, it really doesn't matter.
No, if you're giving up more than that, there's no way that you lose a game scoring 40 points. That said, I've lost a game where I've scored 40 points before. So it's not a rule, but generally speaking, you're not going to lose when you score 40 points. So I'm trying to come up with something to say, hey, this is a concern, but I really can't. I mean, again, we're only 3 weeks in, so I'm sure some of these flaws are going to open up later on down the stretch, but
at some point, somebody's going to do something to stop McCaffrey. Whether that means giving up coverage completely somewhere else, but they're going to make someone else beat them.
And when they're throwing the ball, I'm looking at it now, Teddy Bridgewater's thrown the ball 47 times. He has 5 touchdown passes. That's a touchdown pass about once every 9 attempts, slightly more than 9 attempts. And only 2 interceptions, which you throw the ball 25 times a game, you're going to get intercepted once or twice. So it's 135 passer rating. This team's firing on all cylinders. I don't know who's going to beat them. And looking at their schedule, game of the week 4, Cardinals, Panthers. I'm not going to win. I'm just going to try not to make it a blowout. You got the Falcons. Yeah, okay, they're kind of tough. Bears, no chance. I know Fig's doing well, but no chance. Saints, no chance. Falcons, again, maybe they split because it's the second time there. But, yeah, hey, geez, man. I'm looking at this. I don't see a tough game on their schedule, really.
He's got Vikings
12.
week 12.
Yeah.
That's about it. Broncos week 14. So
this is this team's floor is 12-4.
I don't see it any worse than that. That's worst case.
So there you have it, guys. That's our top 10 list. A little bit of a long podcast here, but it is what it is. We're just gonna roll with it. Let me know if you guys have any feedback for us. I'd love to change things up. Let me know what you want to see in the future. Maybe do top 10 quarterbacks or top 10 passing owners next time around, but that remains to be seen. So thanks, Bomber, for hopping on the podcast. And thanks, everybody, for tuning in and watching. Signing out for Mad Bomber, I got the meats, and we'll see you next time.